occasionally heals, wishing everyone a happy story. The day Tian Hung Lao was confiscated was Mid-Autumn Festival. I just found 2 buns from the dishwashing liquid barrel behind the street. The waiter pouring the dishwashing liquid saw this, smiled and called out, "The tofu is here again. You came at the right time today. Hey, the steamed chicken in the jar was just brought down, and there's still leftover rice. It's delicious when poured into the chicken broth." I smiled and wrapped half the jar of chicken in a handkerchief. Tian Hung Lao is the lowest building in the capital, with private rooms reserved only for royalty and nobles. No matter how many rich young masters come, they can only sit in the main hall. I heard that those nobles have sacred tongues. This dish was overcooked, so it had to be thrown away. The time from when the fish was scooped up until it was gutted was more than a moment, so it wasn't fresh enough, so it had to be thrown away. The chef accidentally sprinkled 3 grains of salt, so it had to be thrown away. All the beggars around the streets knew the time that house poured the dishwashing liquid, and I was no exception. The beggar said that when he found me, I was not even as big as a duck, so he asked for leftover rice from Tian Hung Lao to feed me until I grew up. I immediately called him father. Every day my father and I stood hand in hand outside Tian Hung Lao, looking inside at the small otter. That Tian Hung Lao was warm and bright, with a sweet fragrance, like a mother's gentle heart. That building had, bit by bit, nurtured me to grow up. During the days of hunger and hatred, the times when I was chased and beaten by the police, every time I came to this place, my heart felt warm like I was returning home. However, on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival that year, the night of the full moon, thousands of families reunited. Tian Hung Lao was confiscated. Hundreds of guards with blue swords in their hands, murderous aura filled the sky, surrounded the building. The counter staff, the chef, the waiters, even the customers who were happily eating, were all tied up and scattered. A waiter behind the kitchen had just managed to cry out when his head was severed. I was terrified, and I struggled to hide under the cart filled with dirty dishwashing liquid. When the soldiers had gone, I ran home in a daze. As soon as I saw my father, I hugged him and cried. "Father, the shopkeeper was captured, the waiter was killed. The soldiers said there was an assassin in the building." My father had been through a lot of trouble. He comforted me and hurriedly went out to spread the news. In less than half a day, the rumor had spread throughout the capital. It was said that during the palace banquet, the old lady was so fond of exotic foods that she choked on a piece of sticky rice cake. Before the imperial physician could even step into the Taiha palace, she had already breathed her last. I have tasted that sticky rice cake. It is big, round, soft and smooth, not sticky at all. Sprinkled with a layer of fragrant sesame seeds. One bite is delicious beyond description. It is the best dim sum of Tian Hung Lao, the place where many people have paid tribute for years. However, the old lady choked on a common rice cake and died. There were only 10 days left until her 70th birthday. When the emperor heard the news, he vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood and arrived right in the palace. The imperial edict had not yet been issued, but an oral edict had already sent dozens of people to the great prison. After a night of brutal torture, dozens of lives were dragged to the market, and blood filled the execution grounds. Of such a large building, only the young master who was studying at the Imperial Academy remained. When he heard the news, it was too late. He ran alone to the Qin Palace, risking his life to beat drums and call for joy. The people sued the officials and were beaten 30 times. The people sue the emperor. The death penalty is not applicable. At that moment, all the teachers of the Imperial Academy, along with their students, knelt before the gate of the Jingzhou Palace, kowtowed to save the life of the unfortunate young master. Since he was young, the young master had never taken a single step by himself. Yet that day he stumbled and fell on Chu Tuok Street, stumbling repeatedly as he left the city. At the cemetery full of murderers, he fell and got up again, and finally followed the crows to find the bodies of the entire shopkeeper's family. He called his father, called his mother, then knelt down and bowed to each of his deceased loved ones. Finally, he untied the silk on his hair and tied it around the tree branch. I rushed forward and yanked the rope. The young master fell to the ground, scrambled to his feet, pushed me away, and tried to continue tying the rope. But how could his strength match mine? Being dragged along by me, his face turned purple with anger, and he shed all the tears he had held back the whole way. "Why did you save me? Why did you save me? Who are you?" Do I know you? Why do you care about my life and death? I gritted my teeth, carried him onto my back with one hand, and staggered into the city. Who am I? I am the little beggar at his back door, who has been living at his house for 13 years. I listened to him read books for 9 years, from the sayings "Man is born wise, nature is inherently good," to the profound book "Comprehensive Mirror for Government," but I did not understand a single word. I watched him grow up, watched him learn, watched him go to school. I knew his birthday, knew he liked to make friends, knew he loved sweets and hated spicy foods, knew that every year on the occasion of the 18th lunar month, he stood outside the building giving out 8 treasure porridge to the poor. But the young master never once glanced at me. Who am I? I quickly wiped away my tears with my dirty hands. I was the one who carried out the ritual of removing bad odors at his first birthday party. The Trin family's hometown was in Phuong Tuyen, where customs and traditions were still strong. There was a custom that any family with a sick child had to hold a grand first birthday party. Find a servant who is good at removing odors and kneel before the young master. Let the young master gently kick him 3 times. Kick once and poverty will be dispelled. Kick twice and sickness will be dispelled. Kick him 3 times, and the West will not dare to set foot here for the rest of its life. The great fortune will be smooth, and all things will be auspicious. That day, the village chief of the Trin family stood in front of the door and shouted loudly, "Whoever finds the brat who can remove the smell, let my son kick him 3 times, and I will reward him with 10 taels of silver." Many of us beggars had never even heard of the word "remove the smell," and were all bewildered. Only my father, who was more experienced and knowledgeable, also pushed me forward. Tofu quickly kowtowed to the young master. So I kowtowed down on the stone steps in front of the fragrant feathers, facing the young master's white feet. How painful those 2 kicks were. I honestly don't remember anything. I was too young at that time, my mind was still immature. The young master only had to be kicked twice before he burst into tears. The village chief didn't know what to do, so he just let it go and sent the young master's little wet nurse into the house. But if I could turn back time, I really want to go back to that day, ask the young master to kick me one more time, hard enough to hit me 3 times, to make all the eagles stay away from him, so that he doesn't have to suffer this pain of a broken home. I held the young master on my back, moved up a little, trying to suppress the sound of sobbing. The young master doesn't need to know who I am. As long as I know the young master, that's enough. The young master was beaten 30 times by the government. His back was full of wounds, his legs were immobile, his head was swollen, and his left wrist was limp. I chased him all over the streets and begged him with all my might, but I couldn't get even half a dose of medicine. I risked my life to snatch the safety lock and the brocade bag from the young master's body, and pawned them all. He grabbed my shoulder tightly, punching the medicine barrel while crying, "You can't take it." I said, "You can't take it, you can't take it. This jade pendant is my father's only legacy. This sachet was sewn for me by my mother herself." He was weak, the punches didn't hurt at all, but I still gritted my teeth and pawned everything, then dragged him back to the medical clinic. The old doctor held his nose and examined his wounds. His tongue was broken, his back and legs were only superficial injuries, his head was only bleeding slightly, and this arm, if he didn't use strong medicine, he might not be able to save it. "I'll roll up my sleeves, then I'll come up with a plan." The old man leisurely packed up the medicine box, sneered, "If you have money, you can treat that patient, treat the arm, the skin is different." I was filled with hatred and just wanted to punch him. I carried the young master home and laid him on the dirt bed. His face was pale like a dead man. Luckily, he still had a fever and was still breathing. I washed my only handkerchief over and over again until it was completely faded before I dared to wipe his face and body. The young master was used to living in luxury. The cold well water made him shiver constantly. I was afraid he would catch a cold, so I quickly took the chipped basin to boil water, warmed the handkerchief and wiped his body. Then I took some rice I begged for that day and cooked him a bowl of porridge. "Young master, please drink some porridge." He looked at me wickedly for a while, then said sadly, "You, a beggar like you, do you know who I am? You saved me, but you didn't expect anything in return. My house was ruined, I was penniless. I became the son of a traitor. I couldn't read, I couldn't take exams, I couldn't become an official. The one who harmed my entire family is the emperor, the true son of heaven. I must watch him naturally receive the admiration of all people. Even if I spend my entire life, I still cannot avenge this grudge. What is the point of me living in this world anymore? I might as well just die. He was in the middle of speaking, suddenly choked up. His eyes looked behind me in horror. I turned around. It turned out to be my father. My father had lost both legs, was a cripple, and used his 2 hands to move. The lower half of his body was gone, and his stature was even shorter than mine. But don't look down on my father because he was disabled. He was a tough man. He happily saluted the young man, then turned to me and said, "More people, more mouths to feed. Howdy, father is going out to beg for food again." Theuda felt like someone slapped him hard in the face, hesitantly finished the bowl of porridge, then asked me, "Your father, why did you become like this?" My father, when he was young, was kidnapped by human traffickers. Human traffickers, those bastards, when they catch children, they gouge out their eyes, saw off their legs, and then force them out onto the streets to make money. I said and laughed as I spoke, "Theuda, don't underestimate my father, he's very good. He worked for those human traffickers for 2 years, he knew everything, he just burned down their nest with a single spark. After burning people to death, he was afraid that the government would come after him, and he heard rumors about the capital, so he ran straight back to the capital. 20 years later my father, just like that, with only these 2 hands, crawled from Xiangyang to the capital. Isn't that amazing?" My father told this story everywhere he went. Everyone in this neighborhood knew about it. Whoever heard it had to raise their thumbs up, praising him. Good, the best in the world. There is no praise for a lack of skin. He closed his eyes tightly, tears streaming down his face. I was afraid that his fever would make him delirious, so I quickly helped him sit up. Unexpectedly, he hummed a song. "The good-natured suffer poverty and have a short life. The wicked enjoy wealth and live long. Oh my God, why are you afraid of the strong and bully the weak?" Turns out it was just going with the flow. Beggar, do you know what torture the Ministry of Justice used to force my father to confess? Ask my father, why is the sticky rice cake rolled into a ball like that? Ha ha ha, why is the sticky rice cake rolled into a ball? He cried and laughed in so much pain that he tore his hair out and pounded his chest. I looked at him with a pained heart, pressed him down on the dirt bed, and pulled the tattered cotton blanket to cover him tightly. Theuda remained silent for 3 days, his eyes glued to the yellowed earthen wall. From the beginning he cried until his eyes were full, until finally only tears silently fell. For 3 days he could only drink 2 bowls of rice water. My father clicked his tongue and shook his head. This boy was determined to die. I'm afraid he can't be saved. People often say that death comes to people easily. All it takes is a piece of rope, a pair of iron scissors, or biting your tongue to end your life. Those days I didn't dare to sleep, just kept swiping all over the skinless body to see if he was still breathing. "Little beggar, what are you doing?" He was so hungry that he was barely breathing but was still very agile. With just a glance he could guess what I was doing. Lien laughed miserably. The bones of my parents and siblings were still lying in the cemetery. I still had to go collect them. How could I dare die? Theuda sat up with empty hands. His whole body was shaking from pain, yet he clasped his hands and bowed to me. Theuda asked for my name again. My heart was pounding. I quickly brushed the dust off my body and stood up straight. "Me? My name is Daohu." "Daohu?" I chuckled. My father said that the poor people who couldn't afford chicken or fish liked the bean curd the most. It cost 3 coins for a big piece. Women who were giving birth or breastfeeding had to eat it. The bean curd was a rare food in the slums. My father said that I was a precious treasure picked up from the slums. On the day of the burial, Theuda's family finally regained some vitality. He said, "Damn it, don't call me Theuda anymore. I am the son of a criminal. It will cause trouble for you. Just call me by my name. My name is Luongdin." My father and I were stunned. Both of us were able to speak. When we got home, Luongdin raised his hand and drew a word on the peeling wall. Coincidentally, I knew that word. That was the first day Luongdin was reborn. It was also the first day he learned how to be a good person. How many good people were there in the capital? More than 3,700. That was what was written on the government notice. But my father said it was nonsense. He said that on the way to the capital, he met refugees and food eaters from Hubei, Guangdong, Shaanxi and Hunan, all on their way to the capital. The royal family appropriated the property of the officials appropriated the property of the landlords, the tenant farmers of the landlords could not pay, The taxes of the government could not pay either. The people did not want to be forced to become soldiers, they could only run away. Refugees from all over the country wanted to come to this prosperous capital, to come to the feet of the emperor to find food. The moon hung high above the treetops. Liang Ting looked wickedly at the people sleeping on the ground. Those people were wearing low-cut shirts, barefoot, some were even carrying newborn babies. Most of them were skin and bones and covered in injuries. Some of the strong ones also looked paralyzed and dazed. I was afraid that he was scared, so I quickly pulled Luongdin to sit down. The old man's family goes out there. On the 5th and 16th of every month they give out porridge. Their family generously gives rice. The porridge is very thick. But there are only 2 big pots. If you come late it will be gone. The days waiting for the dawn are so long and bitter. That night Luongdin remained silent, leaning against the stone steps in front of the palace gate, looking up at the stars. I know he was missing his parents. Tofu, do you know how to read? He asked. You are so smart and clever, find a restaurant to be a waiter, or go to a house with a young lady to be a maid. Why are you begging? What he said made my face a little hot, scratching my hand. Young master is joking, I don't even know how to read a big word. And I am also a lowly servant, what can I do? A rich family's servant must be clean and tidy, and must know how to spread the bedding, know how to make snacks. A waiter must be eloquent, and when he opens his mouth he is full of kind words. My father said that lowly servants who have no use and no money can only beg, must know a group of brothers who understand each other so as not to be bullied. Girls don't dare leave home. These days there are bad people everywhere. Be careful not to be sold into brothels. I've been waiting until I'm 14 to work at Tianheng Lao. Tianheng Lao only recruits waiters from 14 years old and up. Only 2 months left. Liang Ting closed his eyes and held my hand loosely. It will be fine. You are a kind and gentle person. You are a good child. You will not have such a hard time forever. It is strange. He is clearly 1 year younger than me, but when he opens his mouth, he speaks in a bookish tone. Early in the morning, as soon as the porridge was served, dozens of beggars pushed each other in. They scared the entire family of the official who distributed the porridge. They said, "Why are there so many refugees this year?" The bowl of porridge was too hot. Luongdin could not hold it firmly. He followed the others and quickly sucked it into his mouth, trying to swallow it even though it burned him. That winter was so cold. Luongdin's severed hand hurt so much that he almost lost half his life. After the first snowfall of the season, he had a high fever. I poured out the last half of the silver that was left at the bottom of the bed, carried him on my back and went to find the doctor at the Reincarnation hall. The doctor told me to prepare a coffin, saying that the wound had turned into a poisonous blindness, and to cure it I needed to use 2 precious medicines, which would cost 20 taels of silver. I sat down on the snow only to see the sky with no path, the ground with no path. Luongdin was lying on my back, but he could still laugh. Daohu, you really lost money saving me. Wait until I die, then bury me and my family on that hill. I will go down there and report the merits to you and your father, hoping that you will soon become rich. I was so angry that my whole body trembled. I raised my hand and slapped him hard in the face. For the first time I fiercely scolded him, "What death, what death? You only think about dying, 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 not thinking about living. Look at this street, who is not more miserable than you? There are so many people in this world who suffer like you. Who is looking for life and death every day? Begging, selling art, cleaning manure. Who doesn't grit their teeth and swallow their tears to continue living? People often say 1 meal of gratitude, the afterlife will repay. I have eaten at your house more than 1,000 times, and I am also 1 year older than you. If you don't mind, then call me sister. No matter how hard or painful it is, I must heal your hand." My neck was covered with his hot tears, but Luongdin still did not call me. I turned my head to look, he had already lost consciousness. A 14-year-old girl, what can I do to quickly earn a large sum of money? I know, early in the morning, I left the house without my father's knowledge, picked up 2 handfuls of snow and rubbed it on my pale cheeks, bit my lips hard to make them rosy, and then walked into Zxiang with great dignity. Zxiang is an alley specializing in selling alcohol in the West Market. December is a good time to sell white wine. In order to profit from wine, the court encouraged wine shops to hire beautiful girls to work as wine prostitutes. Although they were called prostitutes, they did not need to sell their bodies. They only needed to stand at the door and smile to welcome customers. The day I took pictures at the bar in the alley, no one recognized me. When they saw me, they laughed and waved their hands, saying, "You little beggar, go back to wherever you came from. You haven't even grown any hair yet, and you're already here to entertain customers. I told you guys not to look down on others. I have the ability to do that." The shop owners all saw that I was just being stubborn and weak-willed. Only the lady who owned the flower bottle bag was sulking while putting on her makeup, and was willing to talk to me for a few sentences. She was very beautiful, smiling and evaluating me, giving me a chance. She said, "There are so many drunkards on this street. If you can lure one person into the door, I will take you in." I quickly nodded and said yes, but the drunkards who left their houses early in the morning had all been drunk since last night. Their steps were not steady. They were in a hurry to go to work. How could they be lured into the bar? No matter how hard I tried to smile, say sweet words, even pull down my collar, I could not keep anyone. I was so angry that I was about to cry, when suddenly a good idea came to me. I pulled a gentle-looking brother over and said, "Brother, follow me in. Walk around in the door. Our boss will give you 30 coins. Are you okay?" The brother was in a daze, but I actually pulled his sleeve and dragged him in. The boss laughed so hard that she punched the table. Turns out to be a little devil. Seeing how clever she is, fine. I will make an exception and accept her. She paid the remaining 30 coins, wiped my face with a handkerchief, looked at me carefully, and revealed a satisfied expression. "I will follow the husband, you can just call me Lady Willow." Lady Lu took out a small check from the money box, then pushed over a box of red ink. I was worried about Liang Ting's condition, so I grabbed the check and stuffed it into my arms. Lady Lu held the check tightly, her phoenix eyes curved. "Remember, accept these 20 taels of silver. You are the servant who returns home." Not daring to look at father's face, carrying Liang Ting on her back and rushing to the medical clinic. How could my father's legs run as fast as mine? Seeing him anxiously walking to the end of the street, I quickly kowtowed to the doctor, leaving a sentence asking him to treat my place well. Then I turned around and ran away. My father and the leader of the beggars on this street were sworn brothers. As long as there was enough money, the medical clinic would not dare to bully Liang Ting. I ran back to get some flowers. Lady Willow fed me well, and ordered someone to bring 3 basins of water to bathe me clean. I changed into her old clothes, put on a pair of silver earrings, and stood in front of the tavern door singing that the wine was good, the rice was fragrant, and there was a beautiful lady in front of the door. With seductive eyes and a beautiful body, I carried her into the room lovingly. I sang and cried. Lady Lu was no longer smiling. She took the willow whip and hit her palm hard. "What are you crying about? What bad luck? I ruined your business." I stripped the seller's clothes and took him to the brothel next door. So I didn't dare cry anymore. Being a prostitute is too hard. During the day when there aren't many customers it's bearable, but at night I have to stand from the moment the lights and flowers come up until the 3rd watch before I can rest. Each tavern kept 5 to 6 wine girls. Those who were pretty and knew how to please customers would be allowed to come in and rest and drink hot tea. If customers called the roll call to drink, they could also earn some money. I was a newcomer, of course I had to do the coldest and most tiring work. When I saw passers-by I had to sing a few small songs, roll up my sleeves. The strong scent on my sleeves made my nose want to vomit. But here, food and lodging were provided. It wasn't too difficult to endure. I only remembered my father, my skin, and I didn't know if his hand had healed. I lived in a daze, and after more than 10 days, I had turned into a liar who could only smile. That day, some big shots called out to me to pour wine, but I had never drunk anything like that before. After taking 2 sips, I covered my mouth and ran to the door to vomit. Only then did I see my son. He was carried by a cart, covered with my tattered cotton blanket, staring at me without taking his eyes off me. I have never seen Luong Din so desperate, his eyes almost shattered. My father stood beside him. Many people in the death row were laughing at the 2 of them. I was afraid they would catch a cold, so I quickly pulled them into the back room to sit down. Liang Ting's face turned pale from the pain, but he still held my hand tightly, saying, "Fuck, come home with me, I won't treat my hand anymore." I forced a smile, saying, "I won't go home, I can make more money here." He gritted his teeth. "You idiot, do you know that a wine prostitute is a prostitute who sells her body?" I quickly shook my head and said it wasn't like that. I explained that a wine prostitute doesn't need to sell her body. At most she pours wine for customers, Her breasts and thighs are scanned, and she also gets a monthly commission. I become a wine prostitute. Our whole family will not have to suffer hunger and cold anymore, and we can also save money to treat Liangting's hand. My father hates this person the most. He jumped up and hit me. Angry to the point of vomiting blood, my chest and thighs were torn. If not a prostitute, then what? Is that what I taught you? I didn't even leave a message. I've been looking for you all over the capital for the past few days, but you're here working as a prostitute. Uncle! Uncle, don't hit me! Liangting shouted, calming down and telling Uncle to go out and rest first. I'll talk to me. But he didn't talk to me properly. As soon as my father left, Liangting grabbed the chopsticks and hit his left hand hard. Fortunately, the waiter was quick-witted and shouted, knocking the chopsticks off, only hitting his palm. I was so scared that I cried and hugged his arm. Liangting was shaking from the pain, but his voice was still trembling as he said to me, "Don't move anymore, I'm not in pain. But if you were here, I would rather cripple this hand myself." Madame Fai felt unlucky and glared at me. When she sold herself, she said something good. Once she received the money, she was mine. She didn't even get her money back and she wanted to leave. How could there be such a good thing? Liangting stood up and clasped his hands to salute her. "Sister Lu, you must remember me. I am the young master of the Tianheng Lao. You used to provide wine for my family." Lady Lu was surprised, looked carefully at the person in front of her. For a long time she did not know how to salute. She said haphazardly, "It turns out that the skin is rectified and the skin is missing. But it is not forever. The total money for selling the tofu's body is 20 taels. I have already used 5 taels. I will return these 15 taels to you. The money you owe me, just wait for 3 months. I will pay back the principal and interest. I can also teach you how to make the tavern's business more prosperous." He was clearly wearing ragged clothes underneath, but his words carried 1,000 pounds. That snowy night, I took off my beautiful dress and put on my ragged cotton coat again. Tears kept falling, but the corners of my mouth never lowered. Liangting supported me with his hand, my father supported his shoulder, and we walked step by step on the road home. He told me, "Tofu, there are many ways to make a living in this world. Being a slave or a prostitute is the worst option. Once you enter that door, you can't get out, and the person who comes out is no longer human. We go to earn clean money. These past few days I've been thinking, what kind of food do poor people like to spend money on the most? Steamed buns and baked bread fill the stomach, wontons and noodles warm the heart, but everyone knows how to steam steamed buns. Baking buns requires an oven. Making noodles requires strength. These 3 things are not suitable for us. We can open a wonton shop, prepackaged wontons, boil them for 3 times and it's done." My father and I were stunned when we heard that. Our eyes were as big as our eyes. Opening a small stall selling wontons, how could Liangting dare to think like that? What kind of person can open a stall? It must be someone from a wealthy family, skilled in craftsmanship, a decent person. What beggar would dare to do business? Our family is dirt poor. Where can we borrow money to set up a stall? My father and I were like firecrackers, each asking Liangting questions. He was clear and concise, answering us all afternoon. My father and I's eyes were getting brighter and brighter. We rolled up our sleeves and went to find the tools. How much money do we need to open a wonton stall? 30 coins. I bought a stack of red paper, a stick of ink, and found a broken plate to soak the ink. These things in total cost 30 coins. We sneaked into the Tianheng Lao at night, mixed a large iron pot, mixed pickled strawberries, soy sauce, vinegar, mixed bowls, chopsticks, meat and plates, mixed aprons and headscarves. My father borrowed a handcart from a neighbor, and cut and polished a board from an abandoned house at the end of the alley, turning it into a rolling pin and a vegetable cutting board. So a wonton shop that doesn't need a stall, can go anytime, stop anywhere is completed. Just the name of the shop, all 3 of us have our own ideas. My father said to name it Kak Tuong Quan to have a good point. I said to name it Fat Tai Quan, hoping that my family would soon become rich. Luongdin smiled without using a brush. He used his index finger to write 3 big characters, Sao Nan Quan. Sao Nan Quan, Sao Nan Quan, 5 coins for a big bowl, only sold to people who are suffering in sorrow. Liangting did not hesitate at all, choosing the first selling point under the west gate. We left the house at 3 o'clock, pushed the cart for an hour, and arrived just in time for the city gate to open. Outside the city gate, there were countless merchants rushing on their way. And there were also countless farmers carrying their loads into the city. My father lit the fire and set the pot on fire. I rolled out the dough and made wontons. Liang Ting blushed and practiced delivering the goods. When the first pot of wontons came out of the oven, the official had just allowed the first group of people to enter the city. At that time, wontons on the street were sold for 8 coins a bowl, and baked cakes were 3 coins apiece, but our wontons were only sold for 5 coins. Actually, there weren't many minced meat grains in the wontons. Pork was too expensive. The price of pork in winter skyrocketed. Premium pork belly was already 80 yuan per kilogram. But pork bones and intestines were cheap, chicken was also cheap. Add some chopped white celery to make the filling, knead it well. Add 2 spoons of broth made from pork fat and chicken bones, it was fragrant. Father and I felt extremely sorry. Who would ever use cactus, pork fat and chicken bones to make broth? There was still a lot of meat on the top of the bones, why did it suddenly cost so much more? Liang Ting said, real soup, 3 parts in the food, 7 parts in the broth. Pork fat is made of apples, chicken broth increases the flavor, cactus is cheap, add 1 piece to the bowl, the guests will be happy to eat. Father and I were angry but did not dare to say anything, just looked at the pot of broth simmering until it turned milky white, so fragrant that we both swallowed our saliva. Luong Din had never delivered anything before. He was very proud, and his mouth was full of polite words. Most of the people entering the city at this time were uneducated. Who could understand polite words? I taught him how to deliver while making wontons. Wonton soup. Wontons cost 5 coins per bowl. Wontons are big and fragrant. 1 bowl is enough to fill you up. The street vendors glanced at us and our business began. Liang Ting was a cripple, my father was a seamstress. Only I was healthy and had a sharp tongue. The customers often sighed, the little girl really had it tough. Who were these 2 people to her? I immediately turned to the left and called, Father. Turning to Luong Din, he called out, This is my son. Luong Din only looked at me once, silently scooping up the wontons, gently pushing the iron spoon in the pot, making ripples in the water. That month, the 2 of us, father and son, earned 3 taels of silver, and we were both extremely happy. Because we didn't know how to calculate, we just sat there counting every single coin until midnight. Holding a large sum of money in our hands, we couldn't sleep, jumping around the dilapidated house, looking for a place to hide it. Luong Din, his head resting on a pillow, smiled at us. Uncle Tofu, once you earn money, don't put it away yet, you have to think of ways to earn more, to make life better. Father and son nodded repeatedly, considering him as a spiritual support. I went to take a bath. Luong Din took father to the men's bath. I was alone in the women's bath. The ladies scrubbed the grass twice to clean off all the black layer on my body. The bath was really refreshing. After the bath I felt 2 kilos lighter. My itchiness was gone, my hair was silky smooth. I felt like I was flying with joy. Luong Din used his money to buy my father a pair of shin guards and a pair of shoulder guards. My father was extremely happy. He also bought me a jar of cracked balm, soft, smooth, pure white, fragrant, filled the jar. My hands were full of cracks and red rashes, extremely ugly. I didn't want Luong Din to see. I only dared to use my index finger to lightly dab a little balm, rubbing it roughly on the back of my hand. Such a precious thing, how dare I use it? I have to use it when I don't have it. Luong Din's face suddenly became sad. He grabbed my hand, took almost 1/3 of the jar of ointment, used the warmth of his hand to rub my hands back and forth very carefully. This is not something precious, even if it was, you still deserve to use it. I never knew that meaning could create such beautiful words. He said, Tofu, you deserve the best things in life. I also never knew that having a place could be so happy. Before, I only had my father. Now with Luong Din, I just want to use all my kindness to treat him like a treasure in my hands. I secretly met my father, discussed it, and decided to give all the remaining money to the medical clinic. Liang Ting's hand must be cured. A good person like him cannot be crippled. Our wonton stall was placed at the foot of the city wall, selling for 2 years. Finally, it became a famous small shop at the city gate. The servants who changed shifts also liked to stop by for a bowl, praising how delicious it was. So fragrant, so fragrant. Such a capable lady. Do you have any relationships yet? How do you want to find a soulmate? That's right, I'm having a headache right now, I whisper. Before I could finish speaking, Liang Ting had already ordered the food. My sister, of course, must be the most wonderful man in the world to be a perfect match. Send out, your spicy and sour wontons are ready. If you don't want to find them, then forget it, they are the most wonderful in the world. The servant was speechless and could only focus on eating the wontons. The wonton today was so sour and spicy that it made him blush. I whistled at Luong Din and looked at him. He just chuckled and covered his mouth with his hand. After winning 30 taels of silver, we were confident enough to walk into the bank. We exchanged the silver into a check and used it the next day. Luong Din decided to rent a long stall right at the gate of Hat Tay Tea Ward. The Hat Ward is a place for the rich to have fun. There they sing, dance, practice, and masturbate. The big shots, the rich boys and girls, go there to play all day long. When they are hungry, they will not go out to eat, but will send their servants to buy food and drinks. The servants love this job because it makes a lot of money. They buy things for half a tael of silver, return with a guarantee of 1 tael, and naturally pocket the remainder. To make money from them, we have to keep our prices reasonable and make our wontons better so they can pocket some of the extra money. Also, the food has to be absolutely clean without a single hair. If the rich people eat dirty food, they will destroy our restaurant and beat us up. Even though it was so big, my father hesitated for a long time and didn't dare to make a decision. In the end, I gritted my teeth and did it. Father, let's listen to Luong Din. He is never wrong. Luong Din was indeed right. After only a month, the young masters and ladies of Tay Tea all knew about the famous wonton shop near Phuong Hat. The shop had all kinds of fillings, from soft and sweet goat meat, to chewy and crispy fish meat, to fragrant pork. A bowl of wonton costs 20 dong. Buy 5 bowls get 1 free. Regular customers also get a plate of crispy greens. The servants want to embezzle money from the owner. They are cunning, but we know better. Each bowl of wonton is small but served in a wide-mouthed, shallow-bottomed green ceramic bowl. Each wonton was thin and plump, standing out against the green background. There was also a knot on the tray that said, Fish Wall. We changed the name of the stall to Fish Wall Wonton. He could quickly make dozens of them in the dark. His left hand was healed, only slightly twitching when he turned his wrist. The doctor advised that this small kitchen business needed to move more to keep its blood circulating. My father took advantage of his free time to bring a chair out to listen to night opera. Whenever my father was away, Luong Din patiently taught me how to write. We bought pens, ink, paper, and lit an oil lamp at night. I practiced writing his name, but I could never write my own. In the end, I stopped acting spoiled and only wrote the word dong. Luong Din laughed and said that in the future she would be a big boss and would have to sign and point her finger. How could she not know how to write her name? Then my name would be Dodo. He hung it up again. Dodo is a dog's name. The yellow dog next door is also named Dodo. Then I pretend to be a dog. Woof woof woof. We both hugged each other and laughed heartily. Before winter that year we moved house. From the lowest beggar alley in the capital, we moved to Bin, an alley outside the city. Our new house was a small 2-room house, and we had new neighbors, a family that made pickles. That day Luong Din talked a lot. He told about the clear water, about the kitchen with the chimney so that our eyes would no longer be irritated by the smoke. His eyes lit up strangely. Finally he hesitantly asked me, Tofu, this is our new home, do you like it? I liked it very much. I spun around on the spot because I was so happy, until I fell dizzy and fell into Luong Din's arms. Only then did I realize that Luong Din had grown much taller. The young man grew up so fast that I didn't know when he was already a head taller than me, shouldering the burden of this small family on the shore. He hugged my waist, not letting go, but also not daring to look me straight in the eye. Tofu, you're 16, can we have a coming-of-age ceremony? He combed my hair while gently reading the wishes. 1 force flows to the head, wealth is without worry. 2 forces flow to the head, eating well is without sorrow. 3 forces flow to the head, husbands as desired find each other. The wife also came, the previous debt had been paid off long ago, and we had become closer over the years. He brought a bottle of newly brewed peach wine to congratulate me. It was the first time I had drunk such a delicious wine. It was both sweet and smooth, and warmly flowed down to my stomach. But I loved to drink, so I got drunk. I talked nonsense with my father. In the end, the court still looked down on me and my father. He never called anyone father, nor did he call his daughter sister. My father pretended to sigh, this silly girl, after all, lacking skin is still lacking skin. How many lifetimes do we have to cultivate to be able to climb up high? The two of us each held a jar of wine, giggling. Luongdin suddenly changed his tone and called out, "Father! Who are you calling father?" My father was startled and asked back, "Father, my son, my good son." This old man would never have dreamed of this day. My father was in tears and almost fell off the roof. I angrily hit Liangting on the head, and as for me, quickly call me big sister. He didn't say anything, just smiled at me, his eyes sparkling like stars. I suddenly froze, not daring to move, nor daring to say a word. Liang broke out in a cold sweat. Liangting used his finger to draw a circle in my palm, then leaned close to my hand, whispering a small sentence. "I like you, do you really not know?" Since moving into our new house, the three of us no longer have to squeeze into one bed. I have my own room. Even though it is only as small as my hand, it is enough to make me feel luxurious. Luongdin is the young master, the owner, the son of the village chief, the benefactor who gave us that meal that day. He is like a star in the sky. Even if he falls into the mud, he can still build a career from scratch. He is handsome, well-educated, speaks elegantly, and never utters a vulgar word. Every day, the three of us go to the shop together early in the morning. By the time I got there, my father and I were covered in grease, but Liang Pavilion was still spotless. He taught the poor children in the alleys how to read and write, and helped people write letters. He could even chat with Western merchants and discuss business with Southern traders. From the outside, everyone knows that we are not family. As for me, what am I? I am a stupid girl who can't even write the word tofu in bean curd. My brain is dull, my face is rough, my hands and feet are clumsy. I can't even read half of the three-character classic. How could I be worthy of his affection? Tofu, oh tofu, stop fantasizing. I told myself that. The wonton shop's business was getting better and better, and that was why people were jealous. That day, some street vendors hired a group of servants to come and cause trouble for us. They mixed rat meat into the wonton filling. The servants were a group of thugs who specialized in collecting protection money. I gritted my teeth and gave them some silver, but the group of people laughed and took the money. He immediately raised his hand and slapped me hard. Then he raised the silver and shouted, "Look at this. Everyone, look at this. This wall-cut wonton stall is so bold, daring to keep it open for 3 days in broad daylight to bribe the wrong shop. Overthrow its stall for me and find out how many dead rats are hidden inside. It's not crowded yet, but already crowded with people, thousands of people jostling on that street." I could only watch as the vendors opened their sacks and released dozens of black rats that ran everywhere. The whole street was in chaos. Everyone was screaming in panic. Luongdin screamed until his throat was hoarse, but it was useless. People say it's hard to speak clearly when you talk too much. Plus there are so many of them, they want to overthrow the restaurant. I'm a weak woman, how can I hold it back? Tofu, quickly move aside. I only heard Liangting shouting loudly. Before I could understand what was happening, the pot of grilled chicken next to me fell on me. Inside was a whole bowl of hot chicken soup. I couldn't avoid it anymore. In a split second before my eyes, the hot soup almost fell on me. Someone shielded me, covered my back with his back, and hugged my head tightly. Liangting, I trembled and reached out to touch him. Streams of hot soup flowed down from his body. Liangting clenched his teeth. The pain made him grit his teeth, but he didn't make a sound. My mind was about to explode. I grabbed the cleaver on the counter and rushed in to slash those bastards. These bunch of vermin were all street thugs. Did anyone really know martial arts? They were scared out of their wits, cried miserably, and ran everywhere. The people watching on the street were in utter chaos. Amidst the chaos, an alarm gong sounded from the tea house across the street. His Highness the King of Kong had arrived, and all the troublemakers were being taken away. A middle-aged man dressed in fine clothes was bowing at the window of the tea house overlooking the street. He smiled slightly, looking at Luongdin. Luongdin was badly burned. His shirt stuck to his skin. The doctor slowly soaked his shirt, carefully cleaning his wound. I heard Luongdin groan softly. My heart ached. "Tofu, come here." I quickly knelt down beside the bed. His trembling hand tightly grasped mine. I closed my eyes, trying to endure the pain as if being tortured. The doctor was a doctor in the Kongwang Palace. His skills and medical ethics far surpassed those of the doctors in the Ren Xian Hall. After treating Liangting, he kindly said, "Young master, please rest assured and take care of your injuries. Our master witnessed everything that happened today from upstairs, and will definitely seek justice for you. I was extremely grateful and escorted the physician to the door. King Kong is truly a kind person. Seeing injustice, he immediately took action. Such a noble king cares about our small matter. Luong Din was deep in thought. Everything unusual has a hidden meaning. Huh. My brain is slow, I don't understand anything. It's okay, Tofu, we don't need to be afraid. The sky was falling and I was there to support him. Luong Din, who was lying face down, tried to sit up and applied burn ointment to my hand. Looking closely, I discovered several burning spots on my hand. King Kang seemed to have become our benefactor. After that day's chaos, King Kang cleared our name and helped us build our reputation. Customers from all over Tai Ti Do so came to Hon Ton. Very quickly, the wonton shop that cut the wall could not handle the overload of customers. Customers lined up from morning to morning, surpassing the capacity of the three of us to serve. I held the money in my hand, my ambition began to grow, maybe we should hire more workers. Just as he was dreaming, someone brought him a pillow. The government official reported that there were 2 shops at the intersection of the busiest alley in Tai Ti Tra Mat Bang. One was a noodle shop, the rent was 50 taels of silver a year. The remaining one was a 3-story mansion with tables and chairs, and the rent was 200 taels of silver a year. He asked me, "Do you want to be the boss?" I didn't dare to think about it and said in a panic, "Where would I get enough money?" Liang Ting said, "Don't worry about the money, just say whether you want it or not." I bought it unjustly, not because I wanted it for myself, but because I wanted it for the young master. I, a beggar child who rummaged through the trash, never dared to dream of one day having enough to eat and wear. The first day I opened the wonton shop, I only hoped to earn enough to get by. Rice in a barrel, oil in a jar, that was the situation. Back then at 3 a.m. the 3 of us had to get up to set up the stall, and on bone-chilling winter nights we still had to push the cart to sell, just to earn a few pennies. After opening a small shop, I didn't dare to dream of being rich. I just hoped to earn half a tael of silver every day and that would be enough. But the young master was still bullied by bad people. They dared to step on our faces and pour boiling water on him. There is no justice in this world. Only when we stand tall enough will we be less oppressed by others. Luong Din hugged me tightly. He said, "Tofu, I want it too. I want to restore the glory of the Trin family's purple house. For the past 5 years I have dreamed about that every night." My father pondered. His face full of understanding sighed, "If you want to do it, then do it. A man, no matter what his position, he cannot do great things." They were fighting each other, and I was the only one who didn't understand anything. I was just curious, why did such a luxurious mansion have to close? The tables and chairs were all made of high-quality rosewood. Why was the rent so cheap? The owner must be in a hurry. We spent all our money to rent that mansion. We still want to sell mainly wontons. Luong Din works tirelessly, day and night, diligently mixing 18 types of fillings. Several times I woke up and saw the light in his room was still on. I didn't worry about it, feeling sorry for my skin, so I went into the kitchen to make a bowl of sweet tea. Luong Din laughed. "This is the first time you've come into my room at night in a month. Aren't you afraid of me anymore?" I muttered, "I've never been afraid. It's just that I don't dare to face the increasingly deep feelings in his eyes. Don't dare to touch the warmth from those hands." Luong Din tiredly lay down on the table, resting his head on his hand, looking at me. Damn, lately I often dream about the old days. Dreaming of her carrying me around the streets, carrying me to find a doctor and medicine. She was so skinny, her shoulder blades kept pressing against my chest. This running race was so intense. But I was so happy at that time. Listening to him, I almost cried. He remembers those days and so do I. I also remember the young man from back then. At that time he was miserable, struggling, and had a big accident, so his personality also changed. His whole body was covered in injuries and needed someone to take care of him. Luong Din gently closed his eyes and whispered, "Damn, I'm so tired. Tofu, can you hug me?" I was so heartbroken that I could barely hold him. Even though he was getting taller, my arms could no longer hug his broad shoulders. He struggled violently, but still lifted me up and placed me on the table, hugged me and gave me a deep kiss. During my coming-of-age ceremony, Lady Lu joked that I was this old but still didn't understand anything about men and women, just like a little monkey. I was no longer a stupid monkey. Our little house was already prepared. On the opening day, we were honored to welcome a group of famous gourmets from the capital to Tam Dinh. After tasting, they presented us with a signboard with the words, "First-class wonton tray." I was overjoyed, and together with the waiter, I climbed the ladder to hang the signboard high. The leader of the gourmet group was Ha Dai Nand, the former head chef of the imperial kitchen. He bowed deeply to Luong Din and smiled, saying, "Young master has finally enjoyed the fruits of his labor." Luong Din looked at him with a profound gaze and bowed in return. That winter, Liang Ting and I became husband and wife. The wedding ceremony was Liang Ting's funeral, and my father prepared the dowry. We chose practical household items, put them on a big red bed, paraded around town, and then brought them back home. The route of the wedding palanquin was drawn by me. We passed by the old fragrance of heaven, passed by the path of humanity. Liang Ting pulled me down from the palanquin, thanked the greedy doctor who treated him that day, moved him to tears. We passed through the city gate where the shop used to be, passed by Shi Shi, and entered the new imperial palace. Everyone in Tahiti knows about our love story, a happy couple. The business we have today was built with our own 2 hands. Right after the inauguration, people came to congratulate us non-stop. The party lasted all day and night. Luong Din gently lifted my red veil. He looked at me and smiled. Under the clear moonlight, we once again bowed to heaven and earth, and became husband and wife. I thank heaven and earth for bringing him into my life. On that wedding night, he whispered so many sweet words. I felt like I was sitting on a small boat, drifting in the sea of love. In his eyes filled with love, I saw my own shy, gentle figure. Soft, clear, plump, smooth. Then again, it was like I was sitting on a swing swaying, flying towards the distant horizon. Just when I thought I was immersed in the brilliant afternoon clouds, I heard him chuckle softly. Why did he name her Tofu? Ah, she really is as soft as tofu. Late autumn, the carriages are cold, and countless exiles suddenly appear in the capital. It seemed that overnight, the number of people coming had increased significantly. When we opened the door, we were startled to see several beggars huddled under the eaves, trying to find some warmth. They were all from the north who had traveled hundreds of miles, their clothes torn to the bottom, their ribs showing, their cheeks sunken. It looked as if a light wind could knock us down. We tried to help the poor exiles, but soon the gates of the capital were closed, not allowing any more people in. I heard from Liang Ting that the Nguai Sam bandits had captured 4 border cities, and the entire northern defense line was being pushed back to the south. The emperor issued an order to block the 18 passes from the grasslands to the capital, not allowing the border people to escape, and even forcing them to join the army to fight against the iron horses of the enemy. But in the harsh winter of that year, the emperor still built a funeral for the 2 favorite concubines, left for Kong and abandoned Zhang's son. In the white-stained capital there was a most famous building that was Tuong Hui Lao. The western half of the market was engulfed in a thick layer of smoke. The pungent smell of the incense did not dissipate. The imperial officials tried their best to dissuade them, but the emperor not only did not listen, he also demoted many people. A ban was issued. The literati in the capital were not allowed to gather to discuss political affairs. Several scholars from the Imperial Academy were taken to the execution ground. Their heads fell and blood was shed. Among the victims, there was also Luong Din's teacher. We only dared to secretly visit late at night. Bringing a small gift, our hearts were broken. On the way back, I fell asleep in the carriage, suddenly startled by the panicked cry of the coachman. I lifted the curtain and looked out. Liang Ting had disappeared. A few black shadows had just taken him away. I was extremely panicked and quickly jumped out of the car, but was stopped by a HI person. That person had his face covered, bowed his head respectfully. "Madam of the counter, please rest assured, our master only wants to invite the counter manager to say a few words, and will send him back later." I had heard this voice before. It was the guard beside King Kong. I had to suppress my worries and sat back in the carriage, my heart filled with joy. Just as the person said. A moment later, Liang Ting returned. I hurriedly asked Han, worried and restless. Luong Din held my hand tightly. His eyes were determined. His voice was calm, reassuring me. He gently told the coachman, "Let's go home, go quickly." When we got to the upper floor, he carefully checked the hallway, locked the doors, then turned to me and said, "Tofu, I have something important to tell you." King Kang wanted to kill the emperor. I was extremely terrified. Do you remember the story of the old lady who ate my magic cake and died? She was the emperor's biological mother, but she was just a small talent, not favored by the late emperor. When the late emperor passed away, the current emperor framed the entire family of the late crown prince, and even treacherously changed the will, ascended the throne himself, and appointed his biological mother as the Western princess. As for King Kong, he was the real son of the queen mother, the legitimate prince. Years ago, he led his army to a distant battle, but because he was late in entering the capital and could not save the late crown prince, he was imprisoned for 18 years. My mind was spinning trying to remember every word he said. During the days when the emperor was staying at Xianghui-Lu, he had a habit. Every afternoon the imperial kitchen, would choose a famous restaurant in Shishir, and send the chef to Xingqing Palace to serve him a meal. I gradually understood his intentions. What he meant was, King Kang wanted me to infiltrate the chefs and poison the emperor. But how could he be sure that the emperor would choose our wontons? If the emperor died from poisoning, how could I escape? You misunderstood, Tofu. Luongdin interrupted me, his eyes flashing with fire. Not only our restaurant but all 72 restaurants, 36 tea houses, and 9 large brothels in this West City were infiltrated by King Kong. These people were all families whose families had been harmed by the tyrant, whose families had been ruined over the past 18 years. They gathered in this West City, determined to take revenge. King Kang wanted the tyrant to pay for his crimes. The court was already in order, all that was left was this step. I was trembling, terrified. Luongdin hugged me tightly. Tofu. King Kang is a benevolent person, I trust him. But this is too dangerous. I am not sure if I can keep my life, so I want to take her and father away from here. I won't go. I shook my head firmly. Father is old and weak, it's enough for him to go. I want to stay with you. Liang Ting gently kissed my forehead. Her warm hand caressed my belly. She was so stupid. She was about to become a mother and still said such nonsense. I was stunned, frozen like a stone statue, looking at him in surprise, then lowered my head to look at my belly, extremely surprised. How could it happen? We have only been married for 4 months, and I am already pregnant? Liang Ting fondled my face, looking deeply into my uneasy eyes. Tofu. I know that participating in this treasonous plot will put you and your mother in danger. Even if I die 1,000 times, it will not be enough to atone for my sins. But these past years, I have not had a good night's sleep, not a single moment without feeling the hatred for my parents and siblings who were harmed and cried miserably. I surrender and seek revenge, killing that tyrant. Please take our child and father to a safe place. I will try to save my life. I said I could do it. Tofu, please believe me this time. I choked up and nodded, tears falling. I trust him. Over the years, Luongdin has never made a mistake in any of his decisions. My Luongdin will never deceive me. The two of us went straight into my father's yard, closed the doors and windows, and discussed with him in low voices. My father was still humming softly, his eyelids never moving. I was a street beggar without parents or wife. Even a dead copper can sleep, and a bean curd isn't even scary, so what should I be afraid of? My father was still calm and composed, waving his hand. Go, you guys, do what needs to be done. King Kang's men took my father and me to the river south by boat. From the very first day, I was sure that King Kang would not turn against us and then throw us away. They would not kill us after everything was successful. Because King Kang's wife and family were also on these boats. King Kang's wife stayed behind to share the hardships with the king, and the pregnant concubine used the excuse of returning home to mourn the death of the king, disguising all of us as servants and maids and heading south together. When mentioning King Kong, everyone praised him back then as the most benevolent master. I don't know how to swim, have never been on a boat before, and am pregnant, so this trip should be very difficult. Luckily, the baby in my belly is very well behaved and rarely makes a fuss. In addition, the servants in the Kongwang Palace take great care of me, so I didn't have to suffer during the entire journey. But every day I worry about Luongdin. I'm afraid that after everything is successful, he won't be able to escape. I'm afraid that he will leave me alone. Whenever I miss him, I sit down and practice my calligraphy. I finally learned how to write the word, who in my name. I can write his name. I also practice writing the sentence, we will be together forever. in love. In my heart I always silently pray to Bodhisattva, asking him to bless my Luong Din. The first time I finished copying the prayer book, there was a knock on the window. I opened the window in doubt, and was so surprised that I covered my mouth with my hand. My father stood beside me and laughed. That silly Tofu had only known me for half a month and had already forgotten my face. I burst into tears, threw myself into the arms of the person in front of me, and hugged him tightly. This is my Liang Ting. He was wearing dirty clothes. I don't know how many days he had been running around without having time to change or wash them, but he had arrived here. He was afraid that I would worry and miss him, so he came to me day and night without stopping. The scenery of Jiangnan was truly beautiful. The water was blue and gentle. When night fell, my stomach was growling with hunger. Liang Ting's talented hands could always create countless delicious dishes, and the dish he made the most was wonton. The baby in my belly seemed to be a gluttonous little caterpillar, and loved wonton just like its mother. 2 months later, the news that the emperor had passed away due to a serious illness, and that the king of Hang had tried to succeed to the throne according to the new will, spread to Jiangnan. Along with the news, there were also 2 royal edicts. One was to clear up the case of Tian Hung Lao. The other was to appoint Luong Din as the General Secretary of the Ministry of Finance. Following the imperial edict, countless matchmakers came, making a ruckus at the doorstep of our new home. There were even a few young ladies who came to see Liang Ting, trying to look miserable as they got off their sedan chairs to pay their respects, and the bags of black ink thrown over the door were all meticulously sewn. Liang Ting took a sack and collected all the bags of black ink, flew out the door, locked the main gate, and carried me into the bedroom. I was bored. I didn't even know how to follow the deep pockets. Luong Din laughed. I will learn whatever style the tofu wants. I will follow that style. Lang Chung, I didn't know what rank he was, so I counted on my fingers to calculate. Luong Din wrapped his arms around my waist, gently pushed me down on the bed, and gave me a passionate kiss. No matter what rank I was, if I didn't go, if I was given permission and didn't go, I would write a letter to refuse the emperor. I laughed at his stubbornness, but then I felt that what he said was not without reason. Hang Vong was a good person, but he was not a saint. The more people knew the secret of killing the king and seizing the throne that day, the less he could sleep peacefully that day. I asked Luong Din, if he doesn't become an official, doesn't he feel a bit lost? After all, he has read so many books of sages and absorbed so many principles. Luong Din shook his head. I have never been an official, and I don't bring up the subject of officialdom. I only know that a simple life and a healthy diet are the best. The more I advance, the less happy I am. It turns out that Luong Din understands all my worries, insecurities, and fears. I am a simple tofu that grew up from the mud, and had to bend and shape it painfully before I could awkwardly put on the appearance of an official's wife. And once I become an official's wife, I probably won't be able to keep this rustic tofu name. Liang Ting gently touched his lips to the tip of my nose and asked, then we will open another restaurant in Jiangnan, and still sell it well. Open 3, 5, or even 8, 10, it's fine. From now on the salary will be in balance. The gentle wind blows across the table, carrying the poem I just wrote. Everyone praises the beauty of Jiangnan. Lovers only wish to spend their old age together here. The spring water is as blue as the sky. The flower boat nestles listening to the rain fall. When your life is not yet over, do not rush to return home, because returning home will break your heart. Thank you everyone for listening to the story on Jiang Tuesday Man Audio Chua Lan channel. If you find it interesting, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to receive the earliest notifications.